How you going, boys? Hybradge here. Today I'm going to teach you how to itemize on the bear. If you guys didn't know, I was the rank 1 Volibear in season 15 for over 6 months, peak at rank 75 on the Root West Solo Key ladder, and yeah, I'm going to teach you guys how to itemize on the bear. Now, first things first, runes, very simple. A lot of people want to run Jack of all trades, they want to run Inspiration, Resolve. No, just stick with Sorcery second. Sorcery second is the strongest when it comes to snowballing, is the strongest when it comes to the early game. This season, season 16, is an early game determined meta. If you win the early game, you win the game. Take runes that help you win the early game. Those runes are sorcery. Very, very simple. Sorcery for every single item path. Now, let's talk about the first build that I'm going to tell you guys, which is probably going to be the build that you guys build the most. This build is perfect for elos below Grandmaster. I think it's the best build for the elos below Grandmaster. It's the build that I kind of neglected in my previous video, right? I didn't really think it was that strong. But having tested it, I do feel like this build is really good. I have over 80% win rate over this build, so it's definitely strong, right? And yeah, I misjudged it. But this build is what I call the carry build on Volibear. I think it's very good if you need to 1v9. If you have good setup, it's also really good. And if you're playing against slow comps, that's also really good. So if you're playing against tanky comps or comps that take time to scale, this build is perfect in allowing you to snowball and carry the game. Now, what comps is this build bad into? This build is bad into mobile comps, and it's bad into comps with a lot of bursts. The reason being, you don't really have that like a dash or anything, right? And you're quite squishy. So if they're mobile, they kind of poke you down before you get onto them. Not really nice. Against bursts, it's self-explanatory. Again, you're not really tanky into four or 5 items, right? You'll get armor on your 3rd item, but you don't really have MR. So until your 4th, until your 5th item, you're kind of squishy. So you can get one shot if you're playing against the said jungle, town jungle champs like this. So if against burst, you're not the strongest. Now, what actually is the build? So the build, very, very simple. Dusk and Dawn first item, Flicker Blade second item. These two are guaranteed. You're going to go every game. Your 3rd item is going to be Dead Man's Plate most of the time. If you need MR, let's say if the enemy has a heavy AP team comp, if they have an AP mid jungle, then you can go Spirit Visage 3rd, okay? Otherwise, you want to go Dead Man's 3rd. Dead Man's 3rd is going to be the case in 70% of the games. Spirit Visage will be the case in 30% of the games, okay? And then your last item is going to be Jack Show, generally speaking, okay? Now, that could change. Let's say if you're really struggling against like the crit champions. Let's say if the enemy ADC is very fed and the enemy's got Master Yi in the jungle, right, who's also building crit, then you can skip Jack Show and decide to go Randuins, right? Same thing if you're playing against a lot of melee AD champions. Let's say if they've got Shinjao and a Urgot, these champions need to be in melee range and deal AD damage, and you're like, wait, I think Unending Despair is going to be better than Jack Show. Then again, you can elect to go Unending Despair over Jack Show. If you're playing against champions that rely a lot on attack speed, let's say like a Kindred and a Jinx, right? Then you can go Frozen Heart. Now, usually 80% of the time, you're going to be going Jack Show. However, there is some flexibility as to what you go for your last item. That being said, you can also go Kanik Rookrun if you're playing against a heavy AP comp. Let's say if they've got like 4 AP, you can go Kanik Rookrun as your last item over Jack Show as well. Now, the way this carry build kind of works is pretty much use the Dusk and Dawn burst along with Flicker Blade's CD reduction to pretty much just stop being the crap out of enemies. Dead Man's Plate giving you the movement speed, allows you to catch onto them, so it's really, really nice having that as well. Again, with this build, you're kind of the highest damage champion in the game after 2 items, but you're also extremely squishy, so make sure that when you're fighting, you're in a good position. However, your damage output is going to be insane, so that's kind of how the build works. What boots do you want to buy when you're going this build? By far, the best boots are Swifty boots, okay? So Swifty boots are the best boots you can buy because it allows you to get onto the enemy team really, really nice. That being said, Swifty boots are only better than Ionian boots if you have CC on your team. Let's say if you have a CC support or a CC mid laner, Syndra, Malzahar, Leona, Rel, these sort of champions, then you can go Swifty boots. If you do not have CC on your team, go Ionian boots. They are going to be better just because it gives you flash on lower CD, allows you to flash on the team, create your own engages. It's easier. It's just better than Swifty boots if you do not have engage on your team. That being said, there is still room to go either plated seal caps or merc treads if the game calls for it. So let's say if you're playing against a lot of on-hit champions, plated seal caps are fine. Playing against a lot of CC, merc treads are fine. But you have to understand, Swifty boots with this build has a 59% win rate. Ionian boots 58%. When it comes to plated seal caps and mercs, it's 52 and 53 respectively. So you definitely get a way higher win rate when you choose to go Swifty boots and Ionian boots. So I will try to go for those two. But if there's a very good angle for plated seal caps and mercs, then obviously you can go for those as well. First base, what is your ideal first base? So 2 scenarios. If you get a double crab and a kill or whatever, then you can go for the 1050, which is going to be Dark Seal, Boots, and Ruby Crystal. The more likely scenario where you don't get anything done in the first clear, you can just go Dark Seal, Boots, and Dagger. That's 900 gold. Don't really even need a skull for that. Very, very easy buy. Okay, so this build you'll go in 70% of games. Super, super good for carrying games, Grandmaster and below. Okay, will it work in Challenger? It could work, but again, you really need some good setup for it to work in Challenger. Below that, by all means, it's just like Cosmic Drive and Cosmic Navori. It's just a better version of that, so it does more damage, less mobility, but way more damage. So you'll just compensate the mobility with the Deadman's Plate here instead of having Cosmic Drive. Okay, let's talk about the second build. You guys gave me a lot of hate. He's a hybrid. Like, I don't think this build is good. This build is broken, guys. I know you guys might not be feeling it, but this build is genuinely broken. So the build I just showed you guys had around a 59% win rate. This build has a 56.8% win rate. Okay, so both very high win rate builds. When do you go which? So I would say this build is more of a higher elo build, but it's also better than the last build, the carry build, when you're the only front line, if you're against bursts, and if you have strong carries on your team. Let's say if you have like a Jinx, right? Or a Irelia, then this build is going to be better in those games. But it's also really good if you're solo front line and against bursts. When is this build bad? It's bad if you need to 1v9 the game, because it's not really a 1v9 build, right? You're still somewhat dependent on your teammates. Can you 1v9? Sure. But it's not as good as the carry build when it comes to 1v9ing. And it's also not that good against Pill, just because you don't really have that much movement speed. So it's hard to get onto the enemy team if they have a lot of Pill. Okay, what exactly is the build? Iceborne Gauntlet first item, Band of Pipe second item, Spirit Visage third. Generally speaking, Styrax fourth. You can go Protoplasm, but don't think it's that good. Last item, usually you'll go Jackshow. Again, your alternate items can be Unending Despair and Randuin, so you can just go this over Jackshow if you think it's good. Small thing, how do you decide when to go Styrax and Protoplasm? If they have CC, Styrax. If they don't have CC, you go Protoplasm. Now, how does this build actually work? Pretty much this build works. Iceborne Gauntlet, Band of Pipes. You non-stop slow enemies with Iceborne Gauntlet. You non-stop apply Band Pipes. You give your entire team attack speed. The item is super cheap. Very low cost, very efficient build. Gets you items quickly, makes you tanky quickly, keeps your team strong. That's exactly kind of how it works. The movement speed Band Pipes gives you is also really, really broken in allowing you to just shut down carries. Just think it's a really, really, really nice build. What boots do you go? Ionian boots are by far the best boots with this build. It's like 62% win rate. Merc treads, plated seal caps are also fine. They're sitting at around 52 and 53 again. Ionian boots is the best. Why? Because it allows you to flash onto people and it's completely shut down an ADC or like a heavy carry. This build is really good at negating fed carries. So it's just a really, really good build at shutting down carries and a really good build at helping your team carry as well. So Ionian boots is just really good for that. Swifties is also fine with this build, but Ionian boots is just always going to be better. So Swifties is fine, but I would never go with this build. Okay, this build is just way better with Ionian boots. Like last build was better with Swifty boots, this build is better with Ionian boots. Okay, what do you want for your first base? Dark Steel boots guaranteed. If you can get 1050 gold, go for the Ruby Crystal as well. If you can't, 950 gold, you can go for the cloth armor with the Dark Steel and the boots. Okay, so this build, again, a bit of a higher elo build, a bit of a more utility build, still definitely can do a lot of damage. Okay, I've maxed out damage on this build. You can easily do 25k with your base damage. You just need to be in a good position. A lot of you guys complain and said, Hybrizzy, this build does no damage. I'll be honest, you guys it might be a little bit of your guys' fault. If you can get in a good position, you'll deal damage on Volibear no matter what you build. That's just how Volibear works, okay? And this build is a good example of that. Last build, this build is the AD build. As you can see, I only really have one positive for this. It's only when you need to go AD do you build this build. It's pretty much, this is probably the most complicated build to build out, but it's not really, okay? Pretty much Triforce is going to be your must build every game. If you're ahead, you can go for the Flicker Blade. If you're behind, you can go for Shojin. Why can you go for Flicker Blade when you're ahead and not when you're behind? Because Flicker Blade is a stomp item. If you're behind, you're going to get one shot. You have no sort of HP or anything to cover you. You're going to get cooked, okay? Now, when you're behind, Shojin gives you like 450 HP, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of HP. Keeps you alive, keeps you tanky. So even when you're behind, still allows you to deal damage. Just makes you a bit tankier, but obviously the DPS from Flicker Blade is going to be a little bit higher, right? So it's a bit of a better snowball item, but if you're behind, Shogun is for sure a better item. Then your third item, if you're ahead, Death Stance. If you're behind, Dead Man's Plate. Okay, so again, Dead Man's Plate is a cheaper item. If you're behind, you want to go that. It also allows you to find your engages easier. When you're ahead, you don't really need to find your engages because you're dictating the game, right? So the enemy's always coming into you for objectives. So then Death Stance is just fine, right? Because it's a better item when it comes to combat skirmishing. Dead Man's is more of a utility item, more of a strong item, more of a cheaper item. It's just really just much better when you're behind. Spirit Visage is your fourth item. Jack Straw is your last item. These are, we've talked about them before. It's just the standard Volibear build. Swifties is going to be your most common boots with this build. It's a 57% win rate purchase. Tab-Eyes 51, Mercs 53. So Swifties again way higher than plated steel caps and Mercs. But if you have a good angle for plated steel caps or a good angle for Mercs, that's if you're against heavy CC or if you're against heavy on hit, then you can obviously go for the boots. However, Swifties is better. Will not go Ionian boots with this build because you don't really care about your flash being off CD. You care more about catching on to people. So having high mobility is really, really important. First base, what do you want to go? 1,000 gold. You can slap that double longsword with the boots. Really, really nice. Or if you only have 900 gold and you're broke boy, then you can go for the dagger with the longsword and boots. If you're feeling extra risky, you can go for longsword, boots, and dark seal. However, I would not recommend it because I do think getting your 2 items spiked ASAP is better, which is why I do not have dark seal in this build. I do have it for the other 2 builds, but this build I feel like it's just better to get your item spikes. And it's once you get your item spikes, you can just kind of snowball that way. Dark seal is not really needed, so yeah. Yeah, that's gonna bring us to the end of the video. Hopefully I was able to summarize the builds for you guys in a short amount of time. If you learned something, then hey, like, comment, and subscribe. I stream Volibear gameplay on Twitch, so if you want to watch and learn the macro aspects of the game when it comes to playing Volibear, you can definitely watch me there. It's gonna be high elo game, it's gonna be fun. I'll be back in Europe on the 24th, so I'll be streaming Challenger Europe West games from there. Rate the fresh cut in the comments. Let me know how it's going. Love you all, and peace. We're out of here.